Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I am John McCabe, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, fantastic, John. Thanks.
Great to hear it. So today's topic for episode number 7 is the dilemma of building a channel. And I think if you're an executive who has built channels before, you'll relate to this topic. In our business, you go to work for a company to build a channel, and they're either the believers or the non-believers. And I think we see more non-believers who we have to turn around. That's been my assessment over time. I find I work better with the believers, and I try to hunt out those types of companies to go work with because they understand the importance of channel. But I think this is something that really, like, you and I both have experience around, and I know it's something that's very topical for you. So, what's your take on building the dilemma of building a channel?
Well, first of all, thanks. It is a multifaceted dilemma, number one. And to your point, I love the whole believer, non-believer thing because it does come down to, right, what we talked about, like with Nearbound as an example. Having people that understand the channel and understand what it can bring and how it can actually, help the business is a good foundational piece, but also understanding the intricacies and the multifacets that are associated with the channel. So when people say, hey, I want to start a channel, or hey, we're going to go into the channel, well, what is the vehicle that you're looking to use? Are you looking for, what type of value add? Are you looking for a value added reseller? You're looking for a solution, reseller. Are you looking to expand and use a distributor based on, your size and scope? Are you looking for, I'll say cloud-based providers that can actually help depending on what your product is? And I think that's kind of the first dilemma is, where do you want to start to lean in and drive your channel, right? The other piece is more around understanding what is it going to take for that to happen, right? And I think I shared this in one of the earlier episodes when I would go out and talk about the channel, most people go out and they will do a pitch. So you go out, you have your product, you're going to do a demonstration, you're going to give the pitch, whatever it is. When you're doing that for a partner and you're trying to engage a partner, a big part of that dilemma is they're not looking to buy your product. What they're looking to understand is, they don't care about the UX or the UI. What they care about is, how does your product integrate? How does your product move data? How do you support your product? Those are some really important things for a partner so that they can
How do you
understand how
price
that's
your product? How much margin do I get on the product? What kind of
exactly.
will you be there to support me with your product? Right. So yeah, it's all, and that's, it's funny because I've had, conversations with CEOs of the companies I'm with, and they're very, concerned about knowing the pitch, and the pitch is always geared towards the customer. And I always tell them, like, that's not really what partners are looking for. When you're trying to build a channel program and convince partners to work with you, they want to know what you do, how you do it, and how they get paid. The dilemma that you're explaining in your customer pitch, they get that. They're talking to customers all the time, right? What you're saying is very true. I think with building a channel, there's so many parts and pieces that we have to manage, not just convincing a partner to come on board and sell with you, but it's selling to your internal customers. If you're working for an organization where the head of sales is not a believer in channel and is doing it because he's being told to do it by the board or by the CEO, it's a real uphill battle because you're not going to be channel first or 100% channel. You're going to be 50-50, fence sitter. Partners sense that. They don't like working with companies that are not committed. And you have to constantly be promoting the value of that partnership. Whereas working with a company that's committed or is a believer, different story. If the CEO is 100% behind what you're doing, it's easy. You're like, hey, we've got to do it. The CEO wants to do it, and then here's why, right? Here's the benefit of us doing that, right? So I don't know what your experience is with that, but like I've had both sides, and definitely prefer
I've
the
definitely had both
believers.
sides.
But
Well,
yeah,
I've definitely had both. I mean, well, look, you're going to find that even in an organization that says they have, they're 100% channel, which I have always hated that term. Reason being is, most organizations when they start off, they start off small. So you have a founding company, startup, whatever. They're selling it directly. So they are directly selling to the customer. At a certain point, there's a pivot. There's a pivot that they have to make to start moving to the channel, whether it's an investor, it's a private equity, whoever. They start telling them that, hey, this is the direction you need to go in. And
yep,
this comes back to what you said. I mean, I go back to one of the earlier conversations, and I used to call it the partner pivot. So when you're selling to a customer, you're selling and you're pitching, here's what we do, here's the problems we solve, which is, by the way, which is an awesome way to pivot to a partner. But you have to tweak that about 15, 20%, because like we just talked in the beginning, they want to understand, how does it work? How do they support it? How do they make money with it? What is the problems that it's solving? How does it work with the other solutions that they sell?
right.
But to your point that you just made, it is the alignment of goals, right? So just because somebody says that, hey, you guys should be, running in the channel, I don't believe in the 100% channel, because you will always have a handful that may not be able to go through the channel. Eventually you can get there. But I also think it comes back to the goals, of the alignment or misalignment of goals, because you're going to have sales goals, you're going to have your channel goals, which in the end should be the business goals. So having those goals aligned, and then ensuring that you have the compensation mechanisms behind the scenes to enable people to actually make sure that they can execute. Number one rule in sales or selling is compensation drives habit, period. So how you decide to compensate people to do what you need them to do is how you're going to move that rock up a hill, or the rope, depending on what your metaphor you like.
Yeah. But I know 100% channel makes you cringe. I would agree a little bit, but if you talk to
It's okay.
partners, they ask that question when you're a new vendor and you're trying to get into work with them, like, hey, are you 100% channel? And the reason they ask that, because it shows the commitment to
Right.
partners. If you say, well, not really, we're getting there, they know, okay, we might have problems. We might have reps that want to take deals away from us. We won't play nice in the sandbox. What I've gotten in the habit of saying is, we're channel first. We
Yes.
bring deals to partners first. We're not at a point where every deal has to go through a partner. I don't tell them that, but we reserve the right for some accounts that maybe don't want to work with partners, but channel first gives them that impression, like, we are
Absolutely.
dedicated to working with partners, right? And I think it solves a lot of problems. Like, the company you're working for is like, okay, we don't have to do everything through channel, and the partner's like, okay, they're focused on channel. Not being deceptive. I'm just being, that's just laying it out as a process, right?
Okay. Oh, that's my whole point. And you nailed it. I mean, you jumped on it before I even said it, because we've worked together at companies in the past, but saying that you're channel first is a much, much better way to approach it than 100% channel. Because when you tell somebody 100% channel, I've worked at enough companies that there will always be, and there always has been, an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, it doesn't mean I'm not going to work with you, but when somebody says, are you 100% channel? I say, no, but same thing. No, but we're channel first. Or actually, it's hard to be 100% anything. So I don't want to be disingenuous. We're going to be channel first. And here's what that means. You will be the first line of defense. You will be the first line of offense. You will be how we want to go to market. And again, we're trying to change the mindset. I personally think that that's how you build a relationship. You build it on trust, because you just said it. You don't want to be dishonest or disingenuous, because they know. The partners know. And by the way, I think we're both big believers in, the information, what you do and what you say, people are going to look at your actions. And when you do something, the field's going to know. They're going to
Trust.
know.
It's building the trust, right? It's building the
Yeah.
trust. So,
It's that old joke. They're going to know. They're going to know.
so for the non-believers, What's your experience in trying to convince them of the value of working with, resellers? I could give you my reasoning, but I'm curious to hear you, because I know
Yeah.
you're kind of in a situation now where it's like, where's the revenue, Jeff? I get that question too, but like the revenue, there's an expectation for that revenue, and I think trying to convince them the value and the process that it takes to get to revenue doesn't always ring true. They think, channel is an ATM machine, and they dial up the pin code and boom, revenue comes out, and it's not like that. So what's your experience with those non-believers to convince them that there's a process that they have to go through?
Yeah, it's great that we kind of broke non-believer, but they do think, oh, you signed a partner. So when does the revenue roll in? When does that start? You got, Bobby over there with his fingers itching, like, I want to hit the cash register. What do we got to do? But I think that is a big challenge, is that the channel does take longer. And, when we were talking about doing this episode, it was interesting. I go back to, I mean, I could probably name at least 8, 10 people that, I've had the opportunity to work with, good channel people. It takes time. The channel takes time. And number one, if you do it right, to build a territory, right? Let's, you're looking at the macro. Hey, we got, we're talking from a company's perspective, but let's drill it down and make it, put it into a territory where you bring in a channel manager and he's got to build a territory. Even for a company that has a channel, it takes some time. One of my best experiences was, walking into, a situation at a company back in 2016, and, just, it was a mess. They were a direct company. They had gone to channel. Things kind of went sideways. A lot of distrust. There was a lot of just, and there were some bad things that happened. But to answer your question, it takes a plan, and then you have to execute on that plan that you're going to actually follow through and do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And the partners are looking for somebody they can work with, that they can trust. And but like I said, that piece is going to take some time. You have to build that rapport. You have to build up those cycles. You have to show them, that you're willing to support them, that you have the documentation, that you're willing to lean in. I've always kind of fancied myself as, hence a channel salesperson, a salesperson that sells in the channel, so to speak, helping the partner to understand what it's going to take to solve the problem that we offer for that customer, and then help qualify those things, right?
Yeah.
Again, something else we talked about previously. But to get through the non-believers, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. It's hard because they're looking for an immediate return, and that's never going to happen. I think the scenario that we had talked about is, let's just say you get in and you build something out. It could be, a 3 to 4 month for the initial build out. You get with a partner, you sign the partner, you've got another, because you don't want to just sign up partners. You and I have talked about that. So you got to find the right type of partner, right? So now you got all these categories. Which are the partners that are going to best fit the solution and products that you have? Once you identify that, then you got to go find those get those partners in that category.
Yep.
Once you get that partner signed up, now you got to enable that partner, and now you got to get with their reps, and you got to get with that partner. And so now we're talking maybe 6, 7 months into this cycle. And if the sales cycle is 6 months, you're over a year just with that one partner.
Yeah.
And I just, what I struggle with is people just don't want to bite that off. They're like, oh, we need to go get money and sales today. And anything fast probably isn't worthwhile. You've probably heard these little analogies, on like Instagram, and you hear people like, it's the things that matter take time, and they take the work. And when you do it right, you have a good foundation.
And I've interviewed for positions, and I've been asked by, COO or CEO, or the CRO, hey, okay, you come in day one, when will we realize revenue through the channel? When will we be making money through the channel? And my response is, 9 to 12 months. Got to build the program, like you're saying. Got to establish the relationships and train and get your reps involved and get deals in front of partners. You got to give deals to partners first, right? And that's always like, oh, whoa, that's a red flag for me when they're like, oh, that's just too long. There's a lot you have to do to plan. Like you need to make sure your ICP matches the partner's ICP, right? Their ideal customer profile. If you don't, you're just going to be spinning your wheels because you're not going to be selling to the right audience with that partner. So it's tough to convince executives that this is not an instant fix. The instant fix for channel program is being able to hire reps in multiple markets that you don't have to actually hire, right? You're not paying them. It's partners that are going to be your sales arm for you. That's kind of the instant fix that I see, not revenue coming in from day one. It just doesn't happen. But there's certainly, once you get rolling, and I look at some of these vendors, that are out there today, like a Cloudflare or a Wiz, or they all started small, and once things started to pick up, it was revenue was flowing, but it took time. They didn't instantly get revenue coming in. It took years.
Well, you're not looking, but to your point, you're not looking for a deal. You're looking to generate an ongoing, reoccurring revenue stream through a distributed arm of selling, right? Where if I was to go try to hire 10 people, first of all, I got to hire 10 people, then I got to train 10 people, then I got to manage 10 people, which is great. You can do that. And if you just take the law of averages, we know at least 30% are going to fail out of the gates. So now you're left with 7. At least 4 of them are going to be mediocre to average, and they probably won't hit their number. So now you're left with 3 people. And hopefully at least 1 or 2 of them are going to excel. So there's and I forget the guy's name, does a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn. He talks about there's a name for that. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's usually this weird factor, and it's usually somewhere between 1 or 2 to 10 where your reps are going to help you. Now, if you get to a partner, and again, just getting back to the enablement piece, the partners are already selling things into a lot of the clients. Like they already have clients. It's not like they're going greenfield. So there may already be an opportunity to walk in and present something, which means you're 3-4 steps ahead of where you were if you were just trying to sell it yourself. So they're going to make that introduction. It comes back to nearbound. You're taking somebody that actually helps you get in front of the customer so that you can explain how you solve that problem. Right. But go ahead.
I said, let's just flip it now. Like, let's talk about the believers, right? And I've been really lucky. I've had, several companies that I've gone in and built programs for that are all in, including the current company I'm with now. But I think the greatest situation I was ever in was with Third Party Trust. The CEO of the company, Anders Narimo, absolutely believed in the channel. He actually used the channel as a sales arm when he was like 4 employees trying to build this company. And I came in and I kind of formalized everything for him. And we got the reps going from really doing their own thing, not going, through channel. They could go direct. The head of sales wasn't a believer, but eventually he turned on it. So he was a believer, but we were able to, kind of change the methodology, the way the company sold. Anders and I would talk about what's the best way to get channel involved. And he was a big anti cold calling CEO. He hated it. He hated being cold called. He said, I hang up on people and I don't answer emails. He goes, it's annoying. I said, well, what do you think our reps are going through? They're trying to get executives to pick up the phone and answer emails. I said, well, why don't we just go and let's just prospect to partner reps only. And we had several of the big partners that were working with us already. I said, let's just have the reps go out and prospect to our partner reps. I'll write scripts for them. I'll write scripts for them when they're talking to a lead that might have come in through our marketing arm, and get them to be involved with partners earlier. and he was all in, and it yielded tremendous results. My first quarter that we did this, we landed 60 deal regs. That's coming from the partner, 60 deal regs. And it just kept
That's
going up
awesome.
and up. And, the board was like very impressed that we were able to do that. But we also were giving deals, and we were giving services on top of it. We were hiring the partners to do the services for us. So they had multiple, revenue streams that they could experience. So that was a corner case. I'm not sure I'll ever see that type of, experience again. But, I've been with 2 companies since then that are very positive on channel. It helps when the CEO stands behind it. That's when you
Yeah,
have the ability to do this and make it work. If they are not behind it and they let the CRO make their own decisions about it, you're spinning your tires, So yeah, I've had both
totally agree.
experiences, the believers and non-believers, and I think I definitely like the believers better. But it's you got to
Well,
prove it.
I'll tell you this, converting a non-believer, it is kind of euphoric, right? Because they
Yeah.
want to see the proof. The hardest part of that is setting expectations, right? That's the hardest part. And you look, I've done this enough. You've done this. People that hopefully people are listening to these podcasts, but it's the truth is in the struggle, kind of thing, right? I mean, it's not easy. What you just kind of walk through, very, I don't mean this in a bad way, but like kind of blasé, like, oh, this is what I did, and blah blah blah. We got 60 deal regs. That was a lot of work. I'm telling you right now, and there was a lot of work to do that. There was a mind shift that had to happen. There was work on your end. There was a different type of follow up than when you're just selling, right? Because you're trying to educate, you're trying to enable, you're trying to support the partner so that they feel comfortable going into their customer and saying, hey, I think I got something. I mean, you had a great analogy. You were out at an event on the West Coast, or not so much an analogy, but a story. And it's like, you go out and you get to talk to people, and then, you walk away from that. You're like, oh, that was good. I haven't seen that person in maybe, 2 years. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, by the way, my customer came up to your table, and, you know, they're kind of interested. So I'd like to kind of circle back with you. And it's those type of things. You're like, wow. Right? And by the way, people listening, if there's, people, CEOs or VPs of sales, those things do happen.
Oh yeah.
We talked about shows in a previous episode, and I'll just digress. But also making sure you have the alignment with the partner when you're doing that.
And the follow up and the
You-
planning, like you talked about, because I just got through doing a partner SCO in California last week, and I did the follow up. I thanked everybody that attended, and thanked them for letting us sponsor. And I've already gotten several responses. One sales engineer was like, "Hey, we need you to talk to this customer, and let's set up some time." It's not just show
awesome.
up and drink, because that helps with the non-believers are like, oh, we spent this money on the show, and John just brought back 5 good leads. That's proven your worth, right? So yeah, I mean, that a show on events, re-listen that, or take another listen. It's everything, that makes events work, the planning and the follow-up, right? And not just drinking beers and
You,
slapping back,
there'll be a follow-up episode of that,
for sure.
but getting back to your point, like, and I just want to make sure we tie off on that. I mean, as you were talking, I kind of made a quick note. I think one of the challenges, and it also tied into the events, it's about measuring success. What are you looking to do? Are you looking for deal registrations, right? Which means that you confirm that there's a conversation with a need for somebody. Are you looking for velocity, right? What are the reasons you go to the channel, right? I'm looking to, find net new opportunities. I'm looking to find bigger deals, and I'm looking to make deals happen faster, the velocity of which it can happen, right? Those 3 drivers are really the backbone of why you want to work with a partner, because they can help you drive all 3, sometimes all 3. I mean, and that's like that, you hit that trifecta, that's amazing. But I do see, there's a struggle with those. How do you measure all that? right? The metrics within that. And because in the beginning, it's a combination, I hate to say it, of activity that's going to eventually lead to opportunities. But to do what you did and get 60 deal rages, regs in a quarter, um, I don't think that's impossible. I think it could happen again. And I just think it's you have to have the right partner, you have to have the right focus, the right information, the right enablement, and then you have to have the right reps that are bought into actually driving that message and that process.
And maybe having to change, the way of doing, sales. Because we totally flipped them around and said, don't call on customers anymore. Let our lead gen machine bring you leads. We'll talk to them and we bring a partner in immediately. We want you spending your day cold calling partner reps, right? And it did a couple things. It, I always preach partner mind share. It's so hard to capture partner mind share. If you're calling on reps every week just to say hi or touch base or talk about a deal that you're working on, they're going to remember you, right? They have what they call
Yeah.
vendor fatigue. They talk to vendors all the time, and vendors call them up and say, "Hey, what kind of deals you got for me today, huh? Let's get going. We're partners. Why aren't you sending me deals?" They hate that, right? But we were doing the opposite. We were saying, "Hey, good to talk to you. We just released this white paper, or we have a webinar coming up. I'd like to invite you to that." Never talking like, "Hey, give me something," or, "Hey, we just got this lead and it's in your patch. We need to bring you into it," right? So it kept mind share. The other thing is go out to their offices and sit in their offices, right? And these are the things when you're trying to convince the non-believers and building a program. These are the things that will help accelerate your channel program business, the revenue. Just
Yeah.
staying top of mind with partners. It's not easy, but if you could do it and be good at it, you'll start to see more opportunity falling in.
Here's, and you just sparked something, right? So here's another tidbit, which is, too many companies, when they're looking to move into the channel and they're in the channel, right? They get in, and after 6, 7 months, they're like, "Yeah, it's not working." And what they fail to look at are, because they're looking for revenue, but there are other leading indicators that you need to take into account, right? And that
Mhm.
could be just, the contribution to pipeline growth, the enablement from a marketing perspective. Are there reps? Do they have people engaging to actually get trained so they can communicate what your solution does? And are they and I one of my favorite terms, right, for the past 2 years has been leaning in, right? Are you leaning into the conversation? Is that partner leaning in to say, "Hey, we see value here"? And when people overlook those things, I think that's tough. There's also an interesting, I'll call it the challenge, and having worked in network security, right? The challenge of the visibility. It's not just, having a PRM to get deal regs, but what is the visibility of activity and where is it? Because a lot of times stuff is bubbling, but it hasn't turned into a deal reg yet. And trying to make sure you understand, like, where are those things at? I know you and I talked about that. There's a couple different schools of thought. Hey, the moment we start talking, I give you the deal reg, and it's, the clock is, X long. It's, could be 4 months long. I know more mature companies, when you get a deal reg, they're giving you 90 days. Like, you got to
I
do
give 90
something with that
days
deal
and
reg,
they can extend once.
right?
Yep.
But if you do it, and here's the challenge. Oh, my light just went off. Um, if the challenge is, that's not always, you know, you have to look at the sales cycle. How long is the sales cycle for, your solution? And if your solution has a 6 month sales cycle, is a 90-day really valid? I mean, I'm just saying, is it? Would it make sense to maybe make it 4 months or something and then give an extension? Or, because you're really not being fair to the true nuance of the sales. Now, I know we want to get deals to move through the process, but it's just something that I've run into
Well,
where,
here's my argument against that.
I've
Yeah.
yeah,
Here's my argument against that. If a partner is deal regging an opportunity, it means they're bringing you into the deal. There should be a meeting set up immediately to talk to the customer.
Mhm.
And since the partner now has skin in the game, they should be working with you to help close that deal. Maybe if the deal's progressing and they hit the 90-day mark, we let it slide and keep the process going. But if they are not doing anything in 90 days, it's not a deal to me. It's vapor, right?
That's a different conversation. But let's just say the deal is progressing and there is activity, and obviously it's a 6-month sales cycle, and we're looking at budgeting. Well, here's the thing: if that does happen, and again, people that do listen to this will laugh, but if that does happen, and you get a deal reg and it closes in 90 days, the budget was already approved to buy something along these lines, or they had a product that was coming up on renewal that they're looking to replace. I mean, all the timing has to be kind of coming together at the same time for this to happen in a 90-day from a deal reg. That's my point. I'm trying, again, it's a rule of thumb. I get it. But there's so many criteria that come into play with that. And then it's a communication. It's about, you're being honest with the business and you're being honest with the partner. Mm-hmm. Because if you tell the business, oh, we're going to do it for 90 days and you get a deal reg and not happening, you've got executives going, well, you guys aren't meeting your goals. You told me this deal will close in 90 days because it's a deal reg, and it's like, I've seen that. And it's, it's to your point, you got a non-believer and then you set that kind of hurdle and it's the odds of hitting that, especially when a deal reg comes in. I'm just telling you, a typical sales cycle could be minimum 4 to 6 months minimum.
Yep.
Especially in the technology field. I've had the opportunity, in the past couple of years, just talking with clients directly, they're thinking a year out. Like, they're like, yeah, this is what we're thinking about doing. And we love what you guys have. We're going to put it in the book. Okay, great.
Or
now, if you're
companies have 3-year plans and 5-year plans, right? And then you got to you're like, oh shit, I got to get in the 5-year plan. That's a ways away. So.
Oh, absolutely. But again, we went down a couple interesting paths here. I'll talk about another challenge or dilemma, right, of channel is too many partners, right? So that equation of, and I think you and I have actually had the direct experience of following somebody and they're like, oh yeah, we just had so-and-so channel manager and they signed up 100 partners last year. And it's like, oh my God.
Okay. Right. I've worked for companies where the previous channel leader was compensated on the number of partner agreements they had signed. And I'm like, that is so wrong, because you're signing up hundreds of partners that do nothing for you and you're wasting time and energy. I try to stay focused on 4 to 5 that want to work with you. They get you. They've brought opportunity, or you brought opportunity to them, and not worry. If there's ancillary partners that come into the play, great. One-off deals, I'm happy with that. I'm not spending a lot of time with them. My focus partners are the 5, and that's it. So that is a very real dilemma, especially for the non-believers. They don't understand. They think more partners are the way to go, and it really isn't. It's not expanding your reach. It's wasting time.
More partners equal more revenue.
Yeah. It's not
right?
True.
And it's like, but I love the focus, and I'll give a shout out to Mark Fitzmaurice. When I was at Extra Hop, again, almost to the Nearbound thing. I start reading stuff and I go, wow, I've been doing that. I've always had that same mindset, like less is more, right? I have less partners I can do more with. And that was, when I was there, that was one of Mark's big things, within the channel, was we're going to have focused partners. And it's like, they're almost like a Virgin VIP, if you've ever flown Virgin, right? It's like you just want to make sure that you're doing a little extra for them because they're in the focus category. Yes, you have other partners and that's great, but these are the ones that you're going to lean in and spend some time with, develop that rapport, and be able to build out a much more robust business model with.
And I take it one step further.
Yeah, I figured.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I take it one step further with those focus partners. I try to develop pro services with them. We've also started to develop a pilot program. So we can throw a POC over to a partner to help run. Getting them involved. One thing that worked at Third Party Trust, we hired one of our partners to be our managed security provider. And it actually helped us grow our business, because once we started giving them that business, they're like, we owe them something, right? The law of reciprocity. You give, you get, right? So
Yeah.
you spend that time and energy with those focus partners, you give them all the love and attention, and it pays off. It might take a little bit longer to establish consistent revenue, but once you do, it's a flow, right? And I know Mark really well. I know he's a big believer. We talk about it all the time. It works. You can't overload your program with unnecessary partners. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it's look, having fewer, more engaged partners is going to far outweigh having more inactive partners. And they just take, it's like, it's like cleaning out your garage. I mean, you have just stuff taking up space, right? I don't think it's healthy, and you don't want to necessarily, well, at some point you have to purge them. But you got to figure out, are any of those potentially diamonds in the rough that you did sign up, but you just didn't engage, right? So, but yeah, no, I totally agree with that philosophy, because first of all, you only have your span of control that you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
So to try to do more than I mean, five is a good number, and it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
5 is still a lot, because you want to be able to put in the time,
Yeah.
and any partner that I have the opportunity to work with, I engage and I spend the time, and it's hard, and it kind of sucks, but in the sense, it sucks that you've got to invest a lot of time. And part of it is, I want them to know, like, what they do is important to me, and I want to do whatever I can to help them understand what we have and what we do that can help them and their clients at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I think, kind of tying it all together, the dilemma of building a channel is, knowing who you're going up against, the believers who will pave the way for you to build a program that can thrive and will be successful and generate revenue, or the non-believers who really make you work and don't give you the runway. I find those non-believer companies, they're the ones that, when things go bad, channel is cut, right? And that's the end of it. And then they start over again when, like, oh, we need to build channel. So I've come into situations like that where, like, I'm coming in after the fact, where they got rid of channel and I'm rebuilding the channel, right? So, like, it's trying to, teeter on that fence of, who's the believer and who's the non-believer, and helping them understand how to build. It's the same convincing argument for both, but with the believers, they see that vision, they understand it, and promote it and support you. The non-believers, it's really, really a tough task to get them to understand all the work that needs to be done to get there. I mean, what are your closing thoughts on that?
Well, so two things. One, I agree with what you just said, right? And I kind of chuckled, like I said at the beginning, at the believer, non-believer, because it is a good way to kind of separate them. And to your other point, when people make that shift, like, it's not happening fast enough, and they blow out the channel and they try to go straight ahead and maybe hire some direct reps, and they quickly learn that, unless they have a rep that has, contacts or a list of companies that are looking to buy it, you've got another 5-6 month ramp, and another, you still have a year to sell it. That's number one. But what that rep's going to run into is the partners, more than likely, because there are more of them, have much deeper relationships, and they're going to end up having to work with the partner anyway. So what ends up happening is they end up backing into a channel program, because they're like, what's going on? Well, XYZ partner is the relationship there, so I need to work with them. Wow. So now we lost an entire year, where if we had just kept on track and just, I hate to say it, bite the bullet, we probably would be where we need to be by now. The other piece that I just want to throw it out there. I mean, and you and I know a lot of people in this space. I mean, I see us as we kind of move this thing forward, and I know we've got some really cool sessions coming up, after this one.
Hmm.
But I would definitely love to grab, some different people from our experience and our contacts, and
Absolutely.
have them come on and kind of talk about like this topic again, but
Yep.
and get their perspective, right? And kind
Hmm.
of really drill in, because I do see this as a problem, and I do see the dilemma is, one, what is the conception of, oh, we're going to get a channel and we're going to start having, we're going to start driving revenue, within 3 to 4 months, or, you know, we can start working with this partner. He's going to run with it. Understanding the nuances and how that is going to fundamentally change their approach, I think, is important. And like I said, getting other voices, I think, would
Hmm.
be super, super kind of cool and helpful at the same time. And I think the perspective, it'll validate some of what we're saying, I think. But I'm a bit, if you notice, I've been sitting here, I constantly am taking notes, because as we talk through things, it just kind of stimulates my thought process. And I'm like, ooh, like you'll say a term and I'm like, you know what? I like the way that landed. Um,
Well,
but
look at it this way.
no,
We're both fractional channel leaders. We both own consulting businesses that do what we're talking about, help companies build a channel program, right? I agree. We have to have other voices on the show, and I could think of like five right now that I'd want to bring on. But our business right now is going into these startups, smaller companies, to help them understand how to build the channel, and we're both dealing with the believers and the non-believers, right? And that's our dilemma, and that's something this is a topic that won't go away. This is something I'm sure some of our listeners, and if you're out there and you want to be a part of a show, get in touch with us. I'm John at
yeah,
channelsurfers.com, and Jeff is Jeff at channelsurfers.com. Email us. Let's talk. If you're a sales or a senior level executive at a company that's looking to find a way through channel, call us. We can help you. Our rates are really
or at
affordable.
least point you in the right, or at least point you in the right direction. No,
Right.
I get the plug. A lot of this is, helping people, right? Helping people find the right path, find the right direction, or make the right connection. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, it's I get a little kind of like, I don't want to self plug myself, but no, you're spot on. I
Yeah.
think for me to just to kind of bring it back, I just want to echo what you said. I would, there's a handful of people that I'm thinking of that I would love to reach out to see if they want to, maybe come on and kind of talk about what they're doing and how they're
Yeah.
handling the channel dilemma. I've actually had a conversation with somebody since we did the show one. And this person is kind of from the marketing perspective, and gave me some interesting insight to the challenges that they deal with from the marketing perspective of a channel event or working with a partner, right? And
Hmm.
it was, again, I'm just being honest. I don't know everything. I don't claim to, but I thought that her perspective was really, really super interesting, because they're also being measured, right? They're being measured, those types of things.
Well, yeah,
So
like everybody that you talk to is a first touch for them, right? And they want to send blast emails to them. So these events are really critical for them. You get the lists of the attendees and all that stuff. I get it. But yeah, we definitely will have more. This topic will come up again. We'll ask some people to join and give their perspective, because I think it's something that is never going away. It's going to be there forever. It's just the way of the world. There are believers and non-believers, and hopefully we can help all the people listening that are struggling. Maybe we gave them some good insight to help kind of pave the way or help them get over the hurdle.
just a nugget, if there's a nugget, that'd be cool.
Yep.
For me, I mean, if
Yep.
there's something that I or you had an experience with that we shared, that somebody went, or even if it just plants the seed of a thought that allows them to kind of take things in a different direction, that to me is amazing.
Yep.
I'm going to leave this and then I'm going to pass it back to you. But for me, the top three, points of the dilemma are: you have to choose your partner model. How do you
Mhm.
want to engage? The other is, which you said it before me, but I 1,000% agree, is, it's a partner first strategy, partner first approach. And
Yep.
then last, it's all about alignment. It's about alignment and expectations.
Yep.
You know, are your goals aligned, and do those expectations, are they level set so that everybody understands what it's going to take to build this out?
I agree.
Uh,
Well, I think we're out of time, but Jeff, as always, thank you for joining, and your insight and knowledge are wonderful and really help to you know make this topic very interesting. So again, I'm John McCabe, Jeff Lennon. We are the Channel Surfers. You could find us on pretty much every podcasting service there is out there right now. If you want to check our website out, we're www.channelsurfers.com. And we'd love to hear from you. So send us feedback. And until the next show, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you the next time.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody.